The Chicago Bulls came to terms with Josh Giddey and locked him up to a really good deal for the next 4 years to have Josh Giddey a part of this team. But the question on today's episode is, are the Chicago Bulls finally, this front office finally moving in the right direction after capitalizing on the Josh Giddey deal? Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on another daily episode. So if you're tuned in, ready to talk Bulls basketball, man, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. But hey, are the Chicago Bulls finally moving in the right direction after capitalizing on the Josh Giddey deal? Let's talk about it. Well, we know the past. We know the past with the Bulls front office. Started off pretty well. You know what I mean? Going out and trading for Nikola Vucevic at that time, I think was a solid trade for the Chicago Bulls. And then in that offseason, you go acquire and go ahead and bring in guys like DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso already while having Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine on the team. And then once the season started, we all remember, man, we was going crazy for how well the Bulls were playing and how good they looked. At least without, on the surface level, and be like, damn, these guys are actually holding on to the first seed in the Eastern Conference. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? But then things kind of went haywire, if we keeping it real, with our front office in Chicago. What else is new? We seen a front office that pretty much did not make many moves. At one point, we ran into the word continuity. And we kind of was just tired of hearing the word continuity. We seen not many moves be made by going to get DJJ and then Andre Drummond and still not seeing success. And then once Lonzo Ball was not going to return, we seen guys enter the team like Pat Bev. We had the Tristan Thompson experience. And then things started to change again. The Chicago Bulls front office, they went up and got, traded DeMar DeRozan, got Alex Caruso out of here, which is a trade that not a lot of people was on board with, and a lot of people was up in arms and pretty ticked off, and I was as well, and I was trying to make some sense of it with Josh Giddey. And then the Chicago Bulls went into the season, ultimately got rid of Zach LaVine, and another questionable trade that ultimately landed us a couple players, and one of those players is now here at least for a couple more seasons. And then let's not forget the P. Will deal. Let's not forget the P. Will deal. We got to throw that in there. But this offseason came around, and then the front office, they approached us at the press conference and pretty much said, hey, our goal this offseason is to get a player and make sure we got our right side draft picks moving forward. Okay, that was accomplished. They also included things like we want to add another player outside of the draft to the team. They go out and get Isaac Okoro in a trade for him that included Lonzo Ball, which I think was a fair trade personally, because I think it was time to wash your hands with the Lonzo Ball situation. You helped them up into this point. Even though we love Lonzo Ball and what he was able to bring to the Chicago Bulls, it was time to move on and wish Lonzo Ball the best for the rest of his playing career. And now we're here. The Chicago Bulls yesterday signed Josh Giddey to a 4-year, $100 million deal, $25 million average, and no player or team option included. Fully guaranteed with no other things that we have to really worry about when it comes to team option or play option. But the real thing is, are we finally moving in the right direction? I say that's still to be determined until we see some basketball games, right? And the reason I'm going there and saying that I want to see basketball games be played is simply because I want to see if Billy Donovan is now turning a leaf. And that's not to say that Billy Donovan has been a bad coach. I believe Billy Donovan has been able to work with what he has been given, not to the highest level to where we are able to get the most out of everybody, but well at least in regards to results. But when it comes to players, we look at Billy Donovan and you say Coby White has continued to get better. We seen Matas Buzelis at the second half get better. Ayodo Sumu has gotten better. Josh Giddey appears to be heading in that right direction to where he can be that guy for us at the point guard position moving forward. And the only player that's still kind of stuck in mud, if you ask me, is Patrick Williams, if we keeping it real. But Billy Donovan has done a solid job with developing some of these young players. But it's always come down to, in Chicago, can you win basketball games? And with the front office being included and going in and, what I'm saying, getting some luck in that draft and getting Matas Buzelis, things to be looking on the up and up. Then you go get a Noah Essengay, a guy that's a legit project, and you hope that this Bulls front office and his coaching staff can now go out there and place these players in the best position to where we can see these players, Matas Buzelis, Noah Essengay, for the foreseeable future. But I think that the way that we determine if they're moving in the right direction, and at least we have a small little tidbit of it that is going in the right direction, is the way that they handle the Josh Giddey trade. Josh Giddey, in the big start of the season, reportedly wanted $30 million. Had a struggled a little bit going into the season. And then once he got around January, things started to turn for the better when it came to Josh Giddey. And that could have warranted the Chicago Bulls to just jump ahead and just say, we're going to give you the 30 million, no negotiation whatsoever, and just say, all right, here's your money. I know you asked for it. Now you can get it. The Chicago Bulls didn't do that. They didn't approach the Josh Giddey stuff the same way that they approached the Patrick Williams contract. And I think that when you give Patrick Williams 18 million based off saying like things like, and I'm paraphrasing off a number of resources that we previously looked at when the Patrick Williams trade happened, and you looked at that situation and they was like, yeah, we're hoping that with us extending him to this amount of money that he could turn the corner. No, you really negotiated against yourself in the Patrick Williams trade without really evaluating the market. Now, there could have been some consensus that some people believe that, hey, Patrick Williams had a market out there. And the Bulls did not listen to anything, at least from my recollection. I don't remember or recall anybody saying we want to sign Patrick Williams as a restricted free agent to X amount of dollars, and the Chicago Bulls pretty much beat themselves up in that negotiation. But this negotiation with Josh Giddey, they said, hey, we have some leverage here with you being a restricted free agent. What we're going to do is we're going to go out there and say, no, we ain't trading him, but let us know his market, quote unquote. If you see the air quotes, you see the air quotes. And that has led to the Chicago Bulls, yes, going back and forth with Josh Giddey and pretty much sitting on their hands until they got a deal that was feasible for them. That is them learning from their mistakes. We criticize, but sometimes if we keeping it real, you got to praise a team, not to the fullest extent, but at least just a little bit for what they have done, at least up until this point. And in this off season, they pretty much stood on some business. Not even gonna hold you. The Lonzo Ball stuff, they could have held on to that and could say that he could have been the backup point guard, and you know what I'm saying, just really not had a mindset of moving in a new direction. They said, Lonzo Ball, we like you, but we're gonna get you out of here. We're gonna get us a forward in here who is one of the better perimeter defenders that's out there. In exchange for you, we're gonna send you on. And then we got Trey Jones, who came in and really, really impressed us with his play before he went down with injury. And he's now going to be the backup point guard as we move this thing forward, because it is time to move this thing forward. So I think there are some bullet points that you can take from the Chicago Bulls with moving in the right direction. But I still think that it comes down to what's next. And what I mean by what's next is what's next with Nikola Vucevic? What's next with guys on expiring contracts like Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter? What's next for guys like Noah Essengay, Patrick Williams, depending on how their seasons are going up? What is the plan now? I understand that the Chicago Bulls will have a lot of money in 2026, but from now into the All-Star break, how are you continuing to position yourself to utilize said extra amount of money? Now, are you going to utilize that money on Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White? Are you going to utilize some of those assets in these players like Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, Patrick Williams to potentially garner more assets as far as draft capital? How do you move now? But I will give a little credit for how the offseason has gone up until this point, me per se. There's going to be some people out here that says this front office is shitty. We're not going to give them any credit. We're not going to do this. But I'm not going to sit here and act like what they done this offseason is there's some good in there. Regardless of how the Josh Giddey negotiations went, regardless of if you felt like they should have gotten more out of the Isaac Okoro and Lonzo Ball trade, regardless if you feel like they should have done more in the draft, regardless if you feel like Patrick Williams or Nikola Vucevic should have been traded, I feel like they made moves to where they did not completely set themselves back, but position themselves to take another step forward. That's how I'm viewing it. I still think that we still can't jump the gun to say that we're finally moving in the right direction, but I believe there's a few signs that we are moving in the right direction when it comes to the Chicago Bulls front office and how they have handled business as of late. So that's how I'm looking at it, man. I think that these guys they capitalized on a Josh Giddey deal, and that was the real eye opener, because they could have just flat out came out and said, yeah, Josh Giddey, we know that you had a hell of a second half of the season. Here's $30 million. They said, no, we want to see if you can sustain this for an entire season. In the way that it is up until this point, we still have our questions. You still have some things to show us, but we want to reward you for what you've done, and we want to give you some money for what we believe that you can be. Only at 22 years old, I believe he turns 23 in October, and you can still cash in on another huge deal once you turn 27 years old. But I believe that the Chicago Bulls will still have the ability to extend them earlier, you know what I'm saying, when it gets closer to that contract ending. But hey, let me know your thoughts and everything down below. And if you feel that the Chicago Bulls are finally moving in the right direction. For me, I want to see a little bit more, but I'm not going to criticize where we are up until this point, because this offseason, it has been strategic in a way, whether we feel like there was a lack of aggression, whether we feel like some of the moves were a bit questionable. I believe that they are pivoting. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's not a complete 180. Maybe we're not all the way at 180 right now, but it is we starting to turn that corner. I want to see what transpires during this season before we fully say, hey, we're turning in the right direction, because I want to see how you handle Nikola Vucevic, Kevin Huerter, and some other pieces and assets heading into 2026, which is what they have placed out as their off season to really prepare for. And that's what I'm anxious to see. That's what I'm anxious to see, man. So we're going to see what's happening. I think I'm ready to see what this team is going to look like on a basketball court. If Matas Buzelis is like that, and he takes that step forward that we all expect him to take, I think that'll be good. From the good news for the Chicago Bulls. If Josh Giddey and Coby White are able to go ahead and mesh together and really hit the ground running, and Josh Giddey does what he does, and Coby White takes another step, man, that'll be a win for all sides, including us. So we'll see. In the Eastern Conference, it's a little weak right now, or it has its challenges if we keeping it real, but we're going to wait and see what ultimately happens. But that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts and everything down below. But y'all already know, man. Well, I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all always see red. And y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. For sure.
Cognac. Gang.